Good morning, guys. How's everybody? Well, good morning, good evening, good afternoon, whenever you're watching this episode. My name is Neil, and this is Faith in Football. I will be your host for it. It's that time. You see the draft board behind me. What does that mean? That means that football is tonight. Yes, this is Thursday, and this is the kickoff of the NFL season. But before we get into the football, we dive into the faith. Today's verse is Luke chapter 2, verse 15 and 16. And for those of you who have read this before, it is the story of the birth of Jesus. And this is when the angels came down and had told the shepherds in the field that were watching their flocks that the Savior, the Messiah, had come. He had been born, and he was laying in Bethlehem. So let's pick this up in verse 15. It says, when the angels had returned to heaven, the shepherds said to each other, let's go to Bethlehem. Let's see this thing that has happened, which the Lord has told us about. They hurried to the village and there found Mary and Joseph, and there was a baby lying in the manger. Verse 17, I'll go a little bit farther. After seeing him, the shepherds told everyone what had happened and what the angels had said to them about this child. How many of you, after your fantasy draft, and there goes my draft board. That's what happens when you use tape, guys. But what happened when you guys did your draft? You went out and you told everybody. You're like, man, I got this guy in this round. I got this guy in that round. I got a really good deal. This guy took my player. That guy took my player. I couldn't believe that so-and-so got drafted here. You told everybody about it. Why? Because you were excited. You were pumped up. How many people do you tell Jesus about? Or I'm sorry, do you tell about Jesus? Stop and think about that for a minute. Now, I know that not everybody feels comfortable talking about it. But did you really think that the disciples felt comfortable in the beginning? They were nervous. Pardon. You know, back then, they were persecuted. They were beaten, tortured because of their belief. But they pushed forward because they were excited. They were pumped up. They wanted to tell people about Jesus. Not only that, these shepherds were so excited. There's nothing in here that says that they took their animals with them. They said that they went, they left. They left their flock. They left what was important to them because God had revealed something special to them. God reveals something special to us. He reveals the love that his son showed, that he showed by sending his son to die on the cross for our sins. Now, they call it a gift, but what does that mean? You've heard of the gift of salvation. Well, here's the thing is that a gift is free. You didn't have to pay for it. It's already been paid for and presented to you. But in order to make it truly a gift, you must accept it. If you don't accept it, then it's just a box sitting normally. It's just a box sitting there with some pretty wrapping on it that has your name on it. God has his name on our hearts. He died so that we could live. He rose so that we could live. He conquered death. He's conquered, he says in the Bible, he has conquered the world, that we're not to fear it. That no matter what comes in front of us, we have a way to get through it, through him. Well, we've got to rely on him. So as we enter this kicked off season of NFL fantasy football, I want you to remember something, that fantasy is great, but keep it in perspective. Remember that there's something greater than yourself, than football, than fantasy, than anything, and that's Jesus Christ. So as excited as you are about your team, as excited as you are about the start of the NFL season for 2021, I want you to be more excited about Jesus Christ. So I hope that pumped you up this morning. I hope that kind of put a little perspective on things. Remember, Luke 2, verse 15 through 17. Remember, the shepherds left their flock. What are you willing to leave behind to follow God? Think about it. So, without further ado, let's get into the football aspect of faith in football. And let's thank our sponsors, Zia of Lafayette, who actually hosted my in-person draft. And if you look on my Twitter account, Faith, the letter N, Football 1, you will find my draft board for my league of record. And I want you guys to go out there. If you're watching this video, go look on my Twitter feed. You will find it. And follow me on Twitter. If you have any questions during the season about who to start, what to start, who to start where, who to sit, whatever, who to trade, who to drop, anything, any question that you have, football related or spiritually related, I would love to talk to you about either one. Hit me up on Twitter. I check my Twitter regularly. So if you have a question, please ask. Even if you were in a league with me, okay? I also am in a listener league, and my boy Joe out there. Joe, how's it going? And to answer your question, yes, you can ask me anything you want, regardless of what league you are in, either with me or without. I love helping you guys out. I want you to become better fantasy football managers, and I want you to become better students of the Bible. I myself am walking through this with you. I'm by no means an expert on either one, football or the Bible. It doesn't matter how many years I played fantasy or how much I read. There's never enough, and you're always learning. You should always be learning. So, like I said, up on Twitter, please vote and see who you think did the best job. You'll see the names at the top, the team names at the top. Mine, of course, is Faith and Football, or I'm sorry, Redskins Till I Die. That's mine. That's not going to be hard to figure out who I am. I did have the number 1 overall pick for the second year in a row. Before you say anything, no, I didn't rig it, because if I had, I would have been like the 5th or 6th pick. I can't stand being number 1 overall, because there's just too many things you have to reach for, and I got sniped quite a bit by my own wife sometimes. So anyway, as promised, this episode is talking about the starts, the sits, and the upcoming matchups, which tonight is a awesome offensive matchup, at least for the Bucs. If you have any Tampa Bay Buccaneer, by all means, start them. You drafted them. You drafted Brady. You drafted Godwin, Mike Evans, AB, even Gronk. You drafted these guys. Start them. Okay. They're going up against the Cowboys. They are a abysmal defense. It is horrible. It's really, really bad, guys. If you drafted Dak, Amari, CeeDee Lamb, Michael Gallup, Zeke, any of those guys, I understand if you want to, err on the side of caution, and if you have a better matchup, someone you believe in as well, go ahead and start them. Look, I know that you drafted Zeke high. I know that you drafted Dak probably high as well. Um, CD is probably the only guy that on this list that I could see for Dallas that you could start with any kind of confidence. Tampa Bay is just a monster defense, and it's a monster task for them to handle right out of the gate. Don't know what you're getting, but it's kind of hard to not start Zeke, to not start Dak, if you start those guys, because your backup to those guys probably came a lot later and they're not as talented. Okay, so Zeke, Dak, CeeDee Lamb. If you have a better option than Amari Cooper, please pivot to it. And when I say pivot, I mean move to another player. Outside of that, that's about it, guys. The Chargers in Washington. Hey, look, this is a good matchup for Washington. I like the Chargers defense. It's not all that. But they do have the offensive weapons to actually put up some decent numbers and push Washington to score more. Okay. But Washington's defense, again, is an absolute beast. That front seven, you got like 5 first-round picks on their front seven. It's absolutely crazy. Note here is that Austin Ekeler was a DNP, which means did not participate in practice yesterday as Wednesday. So keep an eye on him and his condition leading into the weekend, okay? It is very, very important that if you have anyone in the Thursday game, make sure that you're paying attention to your flex, to your starting rotation, because here's the thing. If your players are playing on Thursday, you need to put them in the position that they're in, okay? This is a little pro tip here for you guys, okay? So if you have Mike Evans, CeeDee Lamb, you want those guys in your wide receiver spot, not in your flex spot. And you're like, but Neil, why? Why is that important? Here's the thing. If you have a wide receiver who is dinged up, maybe Friday's practice, maybe they're doubtful, maybe they're questionable going into the game on Sunday, and they don't get that designation of they're not going to play, that they're out until game day or until game time, okay? You're going to need to move to somewhere else. You're limiting your choices if you have them in their spot that they're in. If they're playing on Monday night, if they're playing on Sunday, you're limiting your choices because you can only play them in that other one wide receiver spot you have or your flex position, okay? Now, in contrast, if you have someone playing on Monday night, you want that player in your flex spot. So if they get hurt, you can pivot to someone else easily and have more choices. So you can start a running back. Maybe all your decent wide receivers are playing already, or when bye weeks come around, as we get deeper into the season, more injuries happen. You're going to find this very, very helpful. I want you to remember your Thursday players need to be in their respective position. They need to be a running back. They need to be a wide receiver. Okay. Your Monday players need to be in your flex spots. Okay. This will give you wider variety to choose from when pivoting to another player. So Ekeler dealing with a little hamstring issue. So keep an eye on that one. Keenan Allen's supposed to be a full go. Mike Williams is supposed to be a full go. If you have either one of those guys, I understand the hesitancy, again, facing the tough defense. Most of your platforms are going to have a place where you see who they're playing, and it's going to be a color. Usually, if they have a really tough matchup, the color of their opponent is in red. They have an easier matchup, the color of their opponent is in green. Okay, and I'm going to show you that here in just a second when we go look at the fantasy app that I use, which is Sleeper. Hashtag not a sponsor. But what is a sponsor, as I was saying earlier, was Zia of Lafayette, who hosted my in-person draft. We had an absolutely awesome time. Thank you very much to the guys at Zia of Lafayette down on Doucet Road. You can call them at 406-0013 if you want to place your order, or you can find them on Waiter or DoorDash. Or if you want to go down there, right behind the Grand Theater off Johnson Street and in front of Red Laurel's Health Club off of Doucet Road. It does look like Doucet for those of you who are out of town. Okay. But look, the food is phenomenal. Go down there and tell Tucker and Heath and Leonard and all the guys down there that Neil sent you. Tell them hi. You might even see me down there. So if you're down there, please ask if Neil is working. Come by and say hi. I also like to thank Keller's Bakery for providing these sweets for the in-person draft. They were absolutely awesome. They got new baklava. If you have not had baklava, you are missing out. Go down there, check them out. Trust me, it's worth it. Okay, guys. So I'd like you can find Keller's Bakery at 627 Lafayette Street in Youngsville. They're off the Youngsville Highway. Call them. It's you can find them on Facebook. They do take orders there. They're 627 Lafayette Street. Go down there and tell them that Neil sent you from Faith in Football, and you get 2 free mini cupcakes. And trust me, these are phenomenal. We had cookies. We had little mini cakes. We had some lemon bars. We had brownies. We had baklava. It was off the chain. My boy Dusty hooked us up. I appreciate it greatly. Make sure you go down there and check them out. Get you a dozen donuts. Get you 2 free mini cupcakes from Faith in Football. So, next matchup. Eagles, Falcons. This one could get ugly. Okay. Jalen Hurts could go off against a really weak Falcons D, as well as Matt Ryan going off against a very weak Philly D. Okay, so this one could be an absolute juggernaut as far as fantasy points go. You got Mike Davis. And remember, I want you guys to keep in mind that Latavius Murray from the New Orleans Saints was cut just the other day. Actually, just prior to our draft, he was cut. And that could throw a monkey wrench into the plans for anyone who drafted Mike Davis, depending upon where Latavius Murray decides to go. Also could throw a wrench into Gus Edwards' plans to dominate the backfield for Baltimore now that he is the only guy with any starter experience. So, Eagles, you're looking at Devontae Smith. You're looking at Jalen Hurts. You're looking at Miles Sanders as definite starts in this one. The Falcons, Matty Ice. If you drafted Matt Ryan, if you waited on quarterback, if you punted the position, and you waited and you built depth at wide receiver or running back, this is definitely a game to start Matt Ryan. You're going to have Matt Ryan. You're going to have Calvin Ridley. You're going to have the rookie Kyle Pitts, like having a very soft matchup. If you were in deeper leagues, you can look at Russell Gage in this one. So definitely one to be excited about. Next up, we got the Steelers and the Bills, Pittsburgh and Buffalo in this one. 2 outstanding defenses, and this is a tough one for me because I've got Josh Allen. Look, you drafted Josh Allen high. You drafted Stephon Diggs high. You probably didn't draft Ben Roethlisberger. and that's probably a good a good thing. But you did draft Najee Harris pretty high, and this is a tough order for him to deal with right out of the gate. I myself have seen a lot of people sitting Najee Harris, waiting on that in order to gauge him a little better and see what he's all about, how exactly they're going to use him. If you have another running back, probably somebody that you picked up in the first round, because a lot of people that drafted Najee Harris, he was a second-round pick. He's your RB2. So if you have an RB3 that has a better matchup, you can slide him in. I know in one of my mock drafts, I had Najee Harris, and then my third running back was Antonio Gibson. Look, Washington's got a really good matchup against the Chargers, as we talked about just a little while ago. Between him and McLaurin, you know you're going to start him. So I would pivot from Najee just this game and see how it is, because this is something that you really don't think about when you draft your team is the matchups. All you're looking at is the talent, and moving forward, we need to, as fantasy managers, look at the matchup, play the matchups, okay? Yes, there are some guys you're just going to play the talent. You have to put these guys in. You have to put in your top draft picks, because you spent such a high draft pick on them. You have a lot of capital invested in them. These are just guys that you have to play to get something out of it, and you cannot deny their talent, okay? There's other guys that a little later in the rounds, you're going to have to look at the matchup, and you're going to have to make the tough choice. That's what the comment section is for me to help you out with, okay? So down in the comment section, if you have a question about an upcoming matchup, maybe that I don't touch on, maybe it's a little deeper league, maybe it's somebody who you're on the fence about in your flex position, there are going to be guys that you're just going to, they're called locked and loaded. They're locked and loaded. They're in your lineup. You're not messing with it. It's set it and forget it in that position. And I understand that, okay? But there's going to be those matchups that you just go, I don't know. That's what I'm here for. That's what Twitter is for. Add faith in the letter N, football 1. Okay, guys? As far as the Bills Steelers, look, if you don't have a better option than Najee, I understand you wanted to get him in there and see what he's all about. I get it. Josh Allen, look, you drafted him high, you drafted him, you started him, go for it, okay? Stephon Diggs, there's going to be volume, there's going to be scoring, and he's probably going to be doing most of it. As far as the Steelers go, you've got a trio of wide receivers along with Najee Harris and an aging Ben Roethlisberger, but I believe he might be out of approval or something this year, so something to keep an eye on. Vikings, Bengals. Look, the Vikes coming in here, their defense is going to be a little more improved. I've kind of cooled on Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase. T. Higgins is going to probably be the number one for the Bengals. So if you have T. Higgins, go ahead and start him, no problem. If you have Jamar Chase, you might want to sit him and find out what he's all about first. And if he has a big game, he has a big game. There's no shame in that. You probably got somebody else that you can start ahead of him because you didn't draft him as high. You got him in probably the mid rounds, so you can stand to bench him for this opener. Kirk Cousins is a really good streaming option if you've got a tough matchup for your quarterback this week. Kirk Cousins is definitely somebody that you can stream. And when I say stream, I mean there's that guy he's on the waiver wire. Nobody picked him up. You pick him for 1 week, then you drop him and you pick up somebody else. Okay. And I love candy apple crisp, this stuff's awesome. Hashtag not sponsored, but bang, if you're listening, come on. I'd love to work for energy drinks. So, Niners and Lions. Look, the Niners, the Niners are going to roll here, and this is ugly. If you, for whatever reason, drafted DeAndre Swift, I'm sorry. He's been dinged up. I have heard that he will start, but this is a tough matchup, guys. The Niners is just a rough matchup. The only Lion that I'm starting here is T.J. Hockenson. Okay, that's it. That's where the list begins and ends with T.J. Hockenson. Okay, so if you got Hockenson, go ahead and start him. Anybody else, sit them. The Niners, totally opposite. If you got a Niner that you have faith in, go for it. Okay, you're looking at Raheem Mostert having a big game. You're looking at Jimmy G. I seriously doubt anyone drafted him because of the Trey Lance situation. They just don't believe in Jimmy G. I get it. Debo, if you got him, start him. This is a cake matchup for him. I actually believe I have him started in my listener league with 103.7 The Game here in Lafayette. So, let's see. Brandon Ayuk. If you have Brandon Ayuk, you're probably starting him. If he might be a pivot for you, but if he's not, and you believe in Brandon Ayuk, this is definitely a game to get him in. Okay, see what he's about. George Kittle. Kittle's going to run all over the lines. I'm not even lying. And Jimmy G loves him some George Kittle. So something to keep an eye on there. Cardinals and the Titans. This one is awesome for Derrick Henry because the Titans are probably going to go up early, and they're just going to be running the ball. It's going to be interesting to see how the new offensive regime handles the play calling. It's going to be something to pay attention to. And if you drafted Derrick Henry, you did it kind of cringing a little bit because you saw guys like Kamara, CMC, Dalvin Cook go off the board first, maybe even Zeke go off the board, and then you're left with, well, should I take Nick Chubb or should I take Derrick Henry? I don't know which. Like you had that conversation with yourself, and you leaned on Derrick Henry, and you know that when it turns cold, he turns into Derrick Yeti. Hashtag the ballers. The fantasy footballers call him Derrick Yeti because it seems like when he gets cold, he gets better. So later in the season, when he's playing in the snow, he just turns into something totally different. So something to keep an eye on there. As far as the Cardinals go, you're starting Kyler. You're starting DeAndre Hopkins. As far as running backs go, there's probably somebody you can pivot to because Titans' defense is pretty good. The Seahawks, Colts, this is going to be a rough matchup for Chris Carson. If you have somebody else to pivot from, I would definitely pivot from Chris Carson and the Colts. Their defense is legit. As far as the Colts offense versus the Seattle defense, I know they made changes in the offseason, and they're supposed to be improved. So this is going to be a test for Jonathan Taylor and Najee Nyheim Hines. They've come out and said they want to get Nyheim Hines more touches. Nyheim Hines is going to be a pain in your butt. I'm talking to myself here because I actually did draft Nyheim Hines. I wish I had drafted Najee Harris, but number one overall pick, he ain't coming back to me. So, but yeah, I would definitely start. You're definitely starting guys like Russell Wilson, DK Metcalf, Tyler Lockett. Those guys are starting. Chris Carson, I would probably sit here. Okay. Keep an eye on how they use Gerald Everett. That's going to be something to keep an eye on, how often he is used, what kind of volume he gets. He was usually a late round tight end flyer, or he's somebody on your watch list. Okay. As far as the Colts go, look, they've got a lot of injury that they're dealing with the wide receivers. So Michael Pittman is definitely in the picture. T.Y. Hilton is dealing with injury. It's going to be interesting to see Carson Wentz and how they use him, how they've integrated him into the Frank Reich system, which he is used to doing. And it might be a change from Philly. So I wouldn't put it past Carson Wentz to come out and have a really, really good game against the Seahawks. Jets, Panthers, again, this one could get ugly. Zach Wilson is somebody to keep an eye on. He's going to be somebody who might be a week one darling. He could put up a lot of points in this one because the Panthers' defense is just not what it used to be, guys. This is not a Cam Newton-led Panthers team with Luke Kuechly at linebacker leading the defense and just a lockdown, shutdown type D. This defense is weak. Okay, so going up against the Jets, really good matchup. Keep an eye on their backfield, see who emerges, and see how Zach Wilson does. I was big on Zach Wilson early. I'm still big on Zach Wilson. I think that he should be rostered. He's definitely somebody to keep an eye on. So if you got an empty roster spot, if you got somebody that you're really not that fond of, that you just drafted, I'll take that guy. That guy you might want to drop for Zach Wilson. Okay, guys. Jaguars, Texans. And we're probably not going to get to all of these today, guys. So, what I will do is I will list my start sits on Twitter. So if you want to check that out, check me out on Twitter at Faith, the letter N, football 1, all one word. Okay, guys. There's no underscores or nothing like that. So check me out. Jaguars, Texans. And I think we're gonna stop on this one, but I will jump to the Monday night game, which is the Ravens and the Raiders. But Jags, Texans, this one, neither defense is good. The only problem is that the Texans' offense, led by Tyrod Taylor, yes, Tyrod is getting another shot at being starting quarterback. The only one in this game on the Texans side that I would see, it would be Brandon Cooks. You can go ahead and start him. He could be really, really special in this game. He's probably the only target in Houston that I would even want to take a flyer on. As far as the Jags go, look, James Robinson, we know what he did last year. This is the game that we find out how he is going to be this year with Travis Etienne being out for the season and Trevor Lawrence taking over at quarterback. Now, remember, and I'm going to say this in closing, week one, don't overreact. You're going to have guys who are just absolutely phenomenal. Then you're going to have guys who have really rough starts. The rough start could be due to matchup, knocking the rust off, because some of these guys did not play a lot during the preseason due to health issues, or they were just trying to protect their starters, okay? So don't use week one as a gauge to whether you made a right choice or not, okay? It's not that crucial. Please temper your expectations of week one. Don't get too high. Don't get too low. Okay, and don't overreact. Don't go out and get that guy off the waiver wire that just blew up because he had a really bad, he had a really good matchup against a really bad defense. So I want you guys to keep that in mind. And real quick, we're going to touch on Ravens, Raiders. If you have Gus Edwards, start him. Right now, put him in your flex. Make sure he is in your flex spot, not your running back spot. Make sure he's in your flex spot because he's playing Monday night, okay? You want to be able to pivot out of that if something happens like, I don't know, Latavius Murray shows up. They already signed Lev Bell. Please don't overreact to that. Chill out. Lev Bell had been relevant since 2017, okay? Chill out. It's okay. Calm down. As far as the Raiders go, look, this is a really rough pick for the Raiders. The only Raider that I'm comfortable telling you guys go ahead and start him is Darren Waller. Anyone else, please pivot off of, okay? Pivot off of Josh Jacobs. Pivot off of Kenyon Drake. Pivot off of any of the wide receivers, Henry Ruggs, any of those guys. Derek Carr, if you had whatever reason thought about starting Derek Carr, please don't. This is going to be ugly, and scoring is going to be lopsided. It's going to be a lot of running. It's going to be a lot of rushing on this one. So Lamar Jackson's going to have an absolutely monster day, along with Gus Edwards. You're probably going to have Sammy Watkins throw too. It's going to be interesting to see how much they actually have Lamar throw. So keep an eye on his passing as well. Okay, guys? The rest of the lineup we will save and I will put out on Twitter probably Friday, so keep an eye on that. Outside of that, guys, my name is Neil. This has been Faith in Football. Before we leave real quick, always, before the season starts, say that little prayer. There's nothing that can hurt. Lord, please don't let any of our starters get hurt. Please protect them. And please guard against the season-ending injury. Amen. Guys, have an awesome year. I hope your first week starts out well. Let me know down at the bottom how your draft turned out, how your week one turned out. I'm interested to see it. And if you have any questions on start sets, on who you should go out and pick up, who you should drop, or who you should add, please, down the bottom, leave a comment. And while you're down there, subscribe, like, and share. And we will see you next time on Faith and Football.